Hello and welcome to Women's Biz Podcast. I'm Annie Gibbins, founder and CEO of Women's Biz Global, and I invite you to get comfortable and listen in on candid conversations I have with fascinating women from around the globe. Business leaders, entrepreneurs, humanitarians, athletes, and a whole lot of regular people. Tune in as they let their guard down and open up on aspects of their business and life journey, how they measure success, and what they have learnt along the way. These conversations aim to inspire you to embrace opportunities and possibilities beyond the limits of your imagination. Reclaim your power, strength, and vulnerability. Stand in your truth and propel yourself towards the life you dream to live. Hello and welcome to our viewers. Annie here. I'm so delighted to have you joining us today on Women's Biz Podcast. I have a fabulous guest for you. Her name is Darlene Greene. So welcome to the program, Darlene.
Thank you. Oh, it's so great to be here with you, Annie.
I am so excited to be meeting with you today and to be sharing with our listeners because I've never spoken to a stem cell activation technology consultant before. I mean, this is going to be such an interesting conversation we are going to have because we're going to be talking about anti-aging. We're going to be talking about how to pull back the time. Is it even possible? We're going to talk about how it can be used for dementia care, but also in a whole lot of different spaces. For those of you who don't know Darlene, she's had like a lifetime experience as an executive leadership and senior management expert in diverse industries, right? She's been vice president of strategic technology partners at McAfee. She's been a dean of Culver Girls Academy, director of client services at HyeTech Networks and Security, senior director at LifeWave. It goes on and on and on. All of her experience. She's got MBA. She's been in the military for 20 years. Wow. I just want to dive into why does a woman with all of this corporate senior experience go, you know what, I'm going to spend my time now in this whole space of, just life, enhancing life through stem cell research and use.
Well, Annie, it's so intrinsically rewarding to help people, right? And you do it every single day, and I know you know what that feels like. But when you take people out of pain, I've had people and you ask them, what's your pain level, 1 to 10? And they say it's 12. And in 15 seconds, we take them to 0 and they cry. They look at you and they're like, oh my gosh, I don't know how this is working. This is unbelievable. And they're like, okay, let's try. Show me the rest. The ice wave patches are absolutely better than morphine, better than Percocet, better than Vicodin, better than any drug you have ever seen. And the stem cell activation patches, which is a different patch, that is helping people optimize their health in so many amazing ways, whether it's Alzheimer's, whether it's acid reflux, whether it's digestive tract issues, leaky gut, microscopic colitis, arthritis, tremors from Parkinson's, you name it. I have a friend, or autism. I mean, I can't even describe suicidal thoughts and ideations, like literally on the brink, very serious depression, lifted and brought out of it, off of all sorts of anti-anxiety medicines, off of no longer with PTSD, all sorts of things that can come about when you tap into your body's innate wisdom and you let your stem cells go in, get to the root of the problem and start working and optimizing your health. You don't even have to know what's going wrong. So many times I feel like our doctors don't really know what's going on. And that's why I really enjoyed your function. You've had some functional practitioners on the kinesiologists, right? Those people are really out looking at the body as a whole system, not just, okay, I'm a doctor, I've learned pharmaceutical drugs and I know how to do surgery. This is what it sounds like. This let's try this drug, let's try that drug. No, this is drug-free, no contraindications, no negative side effects. And it's just, as somebody who explored at huge cost getting IV stem cells and injections. That was $10,000 each IV. We did this quarterly for my husband and for me, and no results, nothing. We had no results. So, and we tried everything. My husband was diagnosed with early Alzheimer's 3 years ago, and the decline was severe. So in a desperate grasp to try to figure out what we could do, we tried IV stem cells. We tried hyperbaric chamber. We tried ozone therapy. We did infrared sauna. We completely revamped the diet. We have a saying, if it tastes good, spit it out. Not entirely true, but you know, the alcohol went out the door, the soda, any sugar, any white flour, anything that wasn't avocado or extra virgin olive oil or coconut oil out. You know, you name it, it's probably not in our house anymore. And so we tried all that. We've done a lot around very specific training, weight training and exercise protocols and all sorts of things, even working on deep sleep. Nothing made the difference. His decline continued and continued and continued till really, honestly, Annie, he was like a shell of his former self, a toddler, an adult toddler. And worse than just like asking me the question 7 times in 3 minutes was that he was just sleeping the whole day away. I mean, 3.5-hour naps, falling asleep at 7 p.m. We go to bed at 8:30. So it's not like, you know, he's getting a really good solid night's sleep. So when someone said to me, I have a friend who would like to talk to you about activating your own stem cells, I'm like, sign me up. I mean, I really was like, I'm out desperate. I mean, not everybody is as desperate as I was. A lot, like there's a pharmaceutical doctor friend of mine. She studied it and looked, and she read every one of the 90 double-blind placebo-controlled studies to do her homework ahead of time. Her daughter had a brain bleed, and I get that. She was being very careful. I was just like, there is nothing working, and I don't have anything to lose. Sign me up.
So I love your honesty about that too. So I'm just going to break in there now because that's at desperate times. You know, that's right. Because your husband is, you know, relatively young. So to have early onset dementia at a youngish age and to then decline so quickly, I'm not surprised you just went all guns blazing of just like, I'll try absolutely everything, because I know our listeners will respond to that. I mean, we went through that even when my father had a brain tumor. It's kind of like instantly, it's like, wow, what toxicity have we got in the diet? What, you know, whether it's exercise, if it's, you know, anything that could be carcinogenic, everything, you just go crazy. And so while the scientists will say you should research absolutely everything, I tell you what, human nature is reactive when you're desperate, right? So it's all right to say, hey, I've tried everything. So to our listeners, if you go, yep, I'm that person, you know what, you're with the majority. We do need to talk science as well, and we will move on to that. But if you're a person who goes, you know what, I didn't even research it, I just tried it, you know what, you're actually in the majority, and we get you, because I would be exactly the same. So you've tried all these things, nothing's working, you're watching him decline so rapidly, and this is heartbreaking. This is just so hard. I mean, this is a very sudden decline. By the sound.
It was very fast, and actually, to make matters worse, I fell down 3 steps and broke my foot and sprained my ankle, and I lost all of my coping mechanisms. So I used to play pickleball 3 times a week. I was going out and walking every morning. I was being very social. So all of those were helping me deal with my husband's Alzheimer's, and all that went away. And it took me 5 months before they did surgery on my foot, and I had been in pain 5 months. So I was depressed. I was seriously sad. I wanted to cry every day. It finally kind of all caught up with me in that moment. And I was just like, oh. So we started patching. It's 10 months ago now. And it's a tiny little patch the size of a quarter. It looks like nothing. And we saw benefits, both of us. Now, not everyone does. 80% of people take 3 to 6 weeks. So what I'm going to tell you is our experience. But we both had very immediate reactions. First of all, my husband stopped napping. He didn't nap at all. That 3.5-hour nap that he'd been taking for a year just disappeared. The 7 o'clock nod in the middle of a show, it disappeared. He was awake and he was energized and he was talkative. So talkative, Annie. It was just like 2 years worth of stuff that he needed to get out right now. And he was with it. I mean, he was with it. It was not just like words. He was making sense. He was responding appropriately. And I was just like, wow. And the neatest part for me is that he was back to his personality. He was funny again. He was flirty again. He was my husband again. And things just kept, things got better. Like he regained the ability to whistle. He regained the ability to drum. 5 months into it, he regained his sense of smell, which he lost 15 years ago. He's kept up that energy level, and he's not. I'm not going to tell you he's cured. In fact, LifeWave products are not intended to cure, treat, or diagnose, or anything that's medical. But even if they do, but they really made a huge difference for him right away. And have continued to. His hair has grown back in, bald spot just like closed up. I'm like, wow. But for me, I had so much more energy. I slept better, woke up before my alarm clock, was ready to go work out, and not like, oh, I just don't want to do this today. But I was actually ready to go hit it. I was lifted out of my depression. And I don't know when, like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I'm not even sure when it happened. I just all of a sudden went in to see a therapist that I kind of had started to see. And I said, I really don't think I need to see you anymore. I'm feeling so good. And she's like, I don't think you do either. I'm so grateful for that. And I was in the kitchen cooking more than I have cooked in a year, in a week. And I'm like, why did I hate cooking? Why did I hate cooking? I don't know why I hated cooking so much. And then I thought, I know exactly why. I didn't have the energy to cook at the end of the day. When you have energy, first of all, it just makes you a much better care provider, because being a care provider is not for the faint of heart. It is,
oh my gosh, exhausting.
It is taxing, right? And so that was just, this was absolutely life-changing for us. And then, of course, I got my family involved, my mom and dad, my sister, and everyone has their story. Their testimonial has just been phenomenal.
So those listening on would just go, wow, so happy for you. First of all, like, wow, incredible. Because I know I've got so many people, and I've been myself, a carer, and it is just so exhausting, and that if you self-sacrifice, it's more likely that you will then have accidents and things like that, because you're just giving out. And it's just it's a very distressing cycle, but necessary. So happy that this worked for you. You'll also be having people who'll go, well, why doesn't everybody know about this? This is almost like, well, how is everyone not going crazy about this product? Yeah. So who has been on this product? Like, yeah. I've read in your research, even Olympians are using this product. Yes. So, like, tell the listeners who is using it and what sort of benefits are they all receiving? So many different benefits.
So the patches were invented 20 years ago. Next year will be 20 years. And the very first patches were actually invented for Navy SEALs for energy, to keep them awake for 4 days at a time without amphetamines and stuff. When you look at the 2008 Olympics, you will actually see over 300 Olympic athletes were wearing our patches. And that includes people like Serena Williams, David Beckham, Michael Phelps. In a recent podcast, Ivory Sully, who's a 5-time NFL outstanding special teams player, talked about Tom Brady wearing these patches. Recently saw something that the Kansas City Chiefs are wearing these patches. So there are a lot of people that are. And it is very frustrating to me that everybody doesn't know about them. And it's very frustrating to me that when I went researching and did a lot of deep dive research into stem cells particularly, I saw nothing about this. That I was really kind of angry when I found out all these people have been wearing LifeWave patches. How is it possible that it isn't on the front page of every newspaper and the media here? And I will tell you, I do believe that part of why is it's not
big pharma.
Big pharma.
I'll say it for you. Big pharma doesn't want someone to have a drug-free therapy.
Right. If this is actually getting to the root cause and people stop. You asked about the benefits. My husband's blood pressure dropped 37 points. People that are taking blood pressure medicine can often, it just regulates, and now they're off blood pressure medicine. People that were on cholesterol medicine, now they're off. Their A1C is dropping. They're no longer needing diabetes medicine. They don't need as much insulin in their insulin pump. There are just tremendous benefits, and I want to speak to those benefits in as much of an organized fashion as possible. But the the most important thing that this patch does is it elevates your GHK-CU. Who the heck has heard of that? That's a peptide. Like, nobody's heard of GHK-CU. I never heard of GHK-CU.
No.
It's a very, probably the most important peptide in our body. And peptides are becoming really a very big hot topic right now. If we can keep them on the market, FDA is trying to take those away too. But what this particular peptide, GHK-CU, does is phenomenal. And it's been studied for 50 years. So this is not new. You can find 50 years of double-blind placebo-controlled studies showing what this does. Well, first of all, we know with the patent and many studies have proven that this patch elevates your GHK-CU. And then what that does is it increases your stem cells. It produces growth factors. It restores healthy function in lung cells, including COPD affected cells. It's an antioxidant and an anti-inflammatory. It's also really good for the brain and nerves. And of course, that's right down what I'm interested in, right, with that. But it does things that I experience, like inducing anti-anxiety and anti-aggression. And but one of the things I love is the anti-cancer benefit. Oh my goodness, it is unbelievable. It resets programmed cell death of human cancer cells, and that's neuroblastoma or leukemia or breast cancer cells, but it does not affect healthy cells. It actually repairs damaged DNA and resets 84 genes to growth or cancer inhibition. It's amazing for hair and skin, including photo damage. I actually had a big sunspot right here, just disappeared. I had very bad rosacea and just like acne, and dermatologists could not get rid of it. 3 months on the products, my rosacea went away. It's excellent GHK. In fact, GHK you can get GHK in injections or in creams. There are a lot of estheticians who know a lot about GHK-CU because of the effects on reducing fine lines and wrinkles. But it also, inside of you, it helps with wound healing. And that's not just outside wound healing. That is including intestinal linings and bone wound healing and stomach healing. One of my favorite things it does is for the heart. And I will tell you personally, I think this has been really beyond the depression that it lifted for me. Probably one of the most benefits for me was around the heart, because what GHK-CU does is it reduces fibrinogen, which is a top predictor of cardiovascular disease, and it increases myostatin. There was a study of X39, the actual patch, and they found that when you wear this patch 6 weeks, you reverse the age of your cardiovascular system by 8 weeks. You basically have a cardiovascular system that's functioning at this 8 weeks younger. And I had POTS. I don't know if you're familiar with that, postural orthostatic tachycardia. This was when I would stand up and everything would go black and I would pass out. I had low blood pressure. They basically prescribed a blood pressure increase medicine for me, fludrocortisone. Now, does that sound like a bad idea or what, right? I was hoping when I went to Mexico, can I please get off this medicine? I just don't want to pass out, getting up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. And I would just hold on for dear life, right? Because I could just go down. And I actually twice knocked my head, once against a bathtub and once against a wall. So it was really kind of dangerous. You could really hurt yourself. I was grounded for 2 weeks, no driving, while they tried to figure out what was going on. So this was my biggest concern. But I had also been diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia. So I've had multiple autoimmune disorders. And I have not taken a single fludrocortisone pill in 10 months, not once. I'm not having these fainting spells. And I think it's because it's just gone in and refreshed my whole cardiovascular system. I love that. So people experience tremendous improvement in their brain health. And there's a study that was done, and this is a double-blind placebo-controlled study in 2019 by HyeTech. And it actually has EEGs in it. So you can look at an EEG and you can see redness, and the red is indicative of inflammation, anger, PTSD, hypercoherence, which is not a good communicating brain across the left and right hemisphere. And in 3 weeks' time, you wear the patch 12 hours on and then 12 hours off. and they come back at 3 weeks and they do the EEG again, and the whole color map has changed, and the greens and the blues have come in, and everything is looking better. People are reporting, I'm calmer, I'm feeling less anxious, I'm actually having better time with my task and my focus. And at 6 weeks, you've got a whole beautiful map of the brain. And what the actual study findings of wearing X39 for 6 weeks, it increased the GHK-CU, yay, but it also supported cell and nerve regeneration. I love that for my husband's brain. It balanced the brain. It improved that left and right hemisphere coherence. It improved the nervous system, decreasing anxiety and decreasing brain inflammation. And then it improved that memory and the focus and the cognitive brain function and the task processing ease and speed. And so people feel that difference, but they also feel the difference of less pain. More pain relief, because it's going in, people that have arthritis or joint pain or an injury even, and it's getting in there and it's remodeling scar tissue on the inside or the out. Stem cells can become anything. They're raw materials, right? So it can be bone, it can be ligament, it can be whatever you need it to be. The only thing we just can't tell it where to go, unfortunately, right? I want you all going to my husband's brain right now. And it may say, well, Darlene, your husband was a Navy captain and the naval aviator for 30 years. We have to start with his liver. I don't know, right? We just don't know where it's going to start or go. Yeah.
So how does for those novices like me who are listening to this going, surely our stem cells are within us. So how do you, via a patch, get stem cells? How does that all work? And obviously not your stem cells. Where are these stem cells coming from? How's this whole concept working to get in a patch?
Such a great question, Annie. So when you're 30, half of your stem cells are dormant. They're in there. They're just not doing anything for you. They're sleeping on the job. And when you're 60, they're almost all dormant. And so what is happening? Let me describe it to you like this. When you go out in the sun, your body gets a signal from the light and says, oh, let's make vitamin D. Right? Mm-hmm. And everybody kind of knows that, or melanin for a suntan. And it affects, you have a biochemical response. That's photobiomodulation. And that's what this patch does. So if I looked at you with night vision goggles on, I would see light inside of you, right? You see the movies and you have people looking and there's little light signatures inside houses because we have light inside of us and we have heat inside of us. So what is happening is that this patch is like a little mirror. It's a lattice structure of nanocrystals, and the lattice is specifically structured so that it's reflecting your light back at a very specific wavelength, just like when the sun is elevating your vitamin D, only this is reflecting your own light back to elevate your copper peptide. And each different patches elevate different peptides. There's a patch called alleviate that elevates the epitheliomin peptide. There's a carnosine patch that elevates the carnosine peptide. There's a glutathione patch that elevates glutathione. So the X39 patch, which is the patch, it's the one that elevates copper peptide, which activates those stem cells. They're just basically waking up your stem cells and saying, hey, get back to work. And that takes a little while. It takes about a month for every decade you are old to wake up all of your stem cells and get them working again. And it's not only waking up your old one, but it's actually helping you produce new ones.
Mm-hmm. Incredible. What doctors do you have across the US, promoting this, going, everyone should be on this product? Well, who are the recognized medical authorities?
There are a lot of doctors. There's an anesthesiologist that I love what he's had to say about it. He has a quote that I love because he's been a 40-year doctor. And there are tons of chiropractors and there are tons of functional medicine and integrative medicine doctors. But when I hear someone like an anesthesiologist, this one is Dr. Joseph Peck, and he's been a 40-year physician, and he says, this is the most significant medical breakthrough in my lifetime. That is significant. And he says the X39 patch is the most amazing product in medicine. There's a Dr. Harmon. He has written this book called How to Reverse Aging, A Comprehensive Guide to Copper Peptides. And this doctor has collected all of the research on GHK-CU. And you can, if you look at the just the table of contents, it's copper peptides and the immune system and the skin and the cardiovascular system in athletic performance, metabolic regulation, the brain, neurodegeneration, cognitive function,
like everything.
Cells, everything, right? Everything. And then what he says is you can get copper peptide by injections or creams or these patches, right? But he had a left branch bundle blockage, which there's no medicine for, there's no cure for. And he went back after 14 months on the patches and they scanned again and it was gone. So there's a Dr. Von Holst, there's Dr. Stacy Holweger, I actually have collected a page of doctors that I love watching their presentations. So there's a Dr. Shari, Dr. Goggin, Dr. Rostenberg. Oh, there's a really famous Dr. Adam Scheiner. He is a world-renowned plastic surgeon for faces, and he has been featured on the Dr. Oz show and the Doctors show, and people come all around the world for him. He actually has his patients use X39 for 3 months prior to surgery and 6 months post-surgery because the results are so much better. The healing is so much better. And he basically says it's at least 40% faster and better with the X39 patch. Plus, everyone's like talking about, oh, my back no longer hurts, and my, all these benefits, right?
I don't want to go off it. And that's another question. Do people, this is fairly new for you, like on your journey, but are you like, I'm going to be on this for life now? Like, why wouldn't I?
I think, right. I think for me, yes. I don't really, that's because I keep seeing people who have been on it 3 and 4 years, and each year something better happens for them. So in the first year, there's this cutie pie, Bob. He actually is like in the 70s, and he wanted his knees and his feet to be repaired. He'd had 7 surgeries in both, and he just was in so much pain. And he wasn't getting that. For 6 months, he wasn't getting that, but he was having other things happen. He was getting better sleep, tremendously better sleep. He was having more energy. His breathing was better. Like other things were happening, but not his knees and his feet. But at the 7-month mark, all of a sudden he was out of pain with his knees and his feet. And he had been very swollen with arthritis. He couldn't even wear his wedding ring ever. And all of a sudden that was gone. Well, then in the second year, he found that the precancerous cells that had to be burned off twice before and had come back and was really painful. He'd said it took hours and hours. There were over 100 of these precancerous cells that had to be burned, and he just cried through the procedure. Mm-hmm. Well, all of a sudden he had been putting it off. He didn't want to go and have it done because it hurt so much. In the second year, he realized they were gone. Every one of them was gone except one. And so that's amazing. And then in the third year of wearing X39, he realized he could read for the first time since 3rd grade without glasses on. So, those stem cells kind of there's this cumulative wonderful effect. I would love that. Like I would love to keep having my cardiovascular system and my brain stay healthier and healthier. Now maybe I won't do all the patches like I launched with all of them. I'm like, yes, sign me up, because one of them has something different. And the energy, right? The ice wave for pain. Yes. There's an SP6 patch that I love that helps me reduce sugar cravings and hunger cravings and drop weight. And I love that. Or the X49, which helps me build bone density and build lean muscle mass and drop fat. I no longer care what I weigh. That's irrelevant, because weight is, there's muscle, there's water, there's fat, right? What I really want is to have strong muscles and a lean body where I'm dropping fat, not water and not muscle. And most diets, the first thing that happens is you're dropping muscle and water. Well, I don't want to drop muscle. I'm going to
maintain that muscle as long as you can.
Like 4 days, so I really want to maintain every bit of muscle. I'm working hard for that muscle. I do not want it to just drop, right?
Exactly. So you've mentioned multiple products. Is it that once people start tapping into this area, and I actually love it, some people might be listening going, isn't this a business podcast? I tell you what, when you get your health right and you start feeling energy and feeling fabulous, I tell you, it affects all areas of your business for sure, because you can tell the difference of, that's right, if you're sitting there in pain with depression, more anxiety, all sleepy, it affects absolutely everything. So with everyone on this show, I'm always very holistic on going, you know what, it's about getting us to optimal health, and also optimizing our businesses so that we can thrive. Is this product then, are there multiple products in the range for different people for different purposes? Is there just like if someone was listening to this saying, you know what, I've just got pain, or man, that Alzheimer situation, I'm relating to that. They'll all be relating to different areas of this conversation. What's your advice to them?
Yeah, so there are different, one of the things that I love doing is every Thursday I host a little webinar where I walk through, here are patches that support various systems. If you have neurological systems that you're trying to support, here are the patches that, X39, X49, Eon, carnosine, and glutathione, and alleviate would be great for that. If you have swollen and painful joints like arthritis, then you'd have X39, Eon, glutathione, ice wave. If you had cancer, X39, Eon, glutathione, and alleviate, and carnosine. In fact, I have to tell you the story. It's so remarkable. There was a woman, you can actually see her PET scan on my website, but she was given 4 to 6 months to live. There was no cure. There was no surgery, and there was no longer a chance for any kind of chemotherapy. She'd been through it all, and it was just completely through her throat and her intestines. She couldn't swallow anymore. They were feeding her in a feeding tube. And she began patching those 5 patches, and in 5 months, her PET scan is clear. It's clear. There is no cancer. And my girlfriend that introduced me to these patches, her cousin was at the end stage of his life with leukemia, an Agent Orange veteran. He was in bed round the clock on pain meds, and he was using a wheelchair or a walker. He was told, we're going to give you this pill. It's going to kill you, but it will improve your quality of life until you die. And that's what his doctors were recommending. And he had sold all of his cows. He was a farmer, and basically they were preparing everything for him to die. And she said, please stop and try these patches. And she sent them to him, and he began patching them. In 3 days, he was out of bed. And in 2 weeks, he was traveling. And then before you know it, he's buying back all of his cows. His white cell count looks great. He just is living and he says he's feeling better now than he has in 20 years. So there are certain recommendations. There are 3 patches I love. So I really love X39. That's the major patch. If you were only going to do one, that would be the patch. But I love coupling it with the anti-inflammation patch, because so much we are all so inflamed with the food we eat, with the water we drink, with the air we breathe, and just with stress. So since inflammation eats up your stem cells, if you reduce your inflammation while you increase your stem cells, now they're really working for you quickly, and you really start to feel the difference more powerfully. The one other patch that I think everybody benefits from is glutathione. And it is, glutathione is your body's master antioxidant. It is also your major detoxifier. So it is amazing in that if you looked at the blue zones, at the places where people live the longest, they have the highest levels of glutathione. So I was actually taking glutathione before I ever learned about the patches, orally and via IV. And I found that, I then discovered that the IV that I was taking was raising my glutathione levels 27% for 7 minutes. The patches that we have for glutathione raises the glutathione levels on average 300%, and it stays there 24 hours. So one of the things that glutathione and Eon and X39 will do for you is it will dramatically regenerate cartilage. So people that were bone on bone and needing knee replacements, they did a study, and they were on those 3 for like 2 to 3 months. None of them needed knee surgery after that. Also, it knocks out spike proteins, which anybody who's had the vaccination or COVID has spike proteins. And those don't just go away. Like, you have to do something to get rid of them. And those 3 patches in 2 months will get rid of them. So yeah, there are things, but all of that's a lot. And no, there's one for sleep, there's one for energy, there's one for just pain, really, there's more to this. And that's why I'm a consultant, right? I've now read all 90 studies. I've now helped people, you got to drink water. You can't just pop this on, especially glutathione, because you detox. So you really got to make sure you're drinking a lot of water, and maybe adding some electrolytes along the way, or adding copper, because so many people are low in copper. So there's a lot more to it. But really, if they just did X39, in the end, that would be huge.
What's the cost differential for people who go, but I've been taking all these medications or other natural therapies, like that you've got a swag of expenses that you're paying, and then you're going to then go, you know what, I'm going to look into this. How damaging is it going to be to the bank account, even though if it changes your life seriously?
So it is $99. $99 for a 1 month supply of X39. And that means you're putting it on 12 hours and then you're taking it off. And when you take it off, you can patch your dog, you can patch your sibling, you can patch your best friend, because there's still a little bit of life in it, but you want to not get used to the light signal. And so you don't want attenuation to occur. And that's why we wear 12 hours instead of 18 or 24. More is not better in this case. So the X39 patch is $99 for a 1 month supply. And the other patches, the Eon, the glutathione, the Ice Wave, those are $49 for 30 patches. So they come in these little sleeves like I showed you. It's just like, 30 patches, and you open them up, and inside you'll find all of these little patches, and you can wear multiple at a time. You can wear, I wear mini patches at a time, but preferably the X39 and the Eon would be great. And if you're in pain, you want the Ice Wave. The Ice Wave is just tremendous at getting people out of pain. And that's also $49 for 30 patches. So we have a variety of programs too. There's a really, quick program to get started where you can get 2 X39 and 2 Eon for $299, and you can pay basically wholesale prices for that. There are their retail prices. You can pay $150 for the X39, but I don't, friends don't let friends pay retail. So we've gone through all the cost of all of them and the different costs of different ones along the way here.
I'm really sorry. I don't know what happened there. Sorry about this. I'll end up cutting the video and redoing it. My internet just popped out. So if you noticed, I just disappeared.
I did, and I just kept going as though you were here. So you can take a look. You can take a look at what you want to do with that. But I just
no, that's okay. I've got no idea what happened. It just suddenly popped off, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
That's right. Question again, and we'll do it over.
Well, if you've been talking anyway, that'll be okay. So it will have recorded it because it's still recording now, and I'll just chop off this little bit. I'm like, oh, major apologies. I don't know what happened there. Absolutely fantastic. Thank you. I'm going to have to just reframe now. Such a great conversation today. I have absolutely loved it, Darlene, because I just think it's so interesting having just a whole fresh approach to natural medicines. It's a topic that I certainly don't talk about very much in I haven't talked about that on this podcast, but also just with people generally. I think we need to always be aware of the pressure and the power of big pharma. And we're not saying that all alternatives are definitely right. You've got to have your own walk, your own research. But I think you've certainly given a lot for everyone to think about today, and definitely opportunities for them to research this area for themselves. And most importantly, I'm just so thrilled that it's had such positive effect on you. I love the way that you put this on your husband and then go, you know what, I'll have some myself.
Absolutely.
I love that. Oh my goodness, I'm having internet issues for some reason. Anyway, I'll have to chop and change this a little bit, but that's okay. Yeah, I absolutely love that, because not many people would think, if it was a medication, like when we were talking before about like blood pressure medicine or something like that, if you put it on, gave that to your partner, you wouldn't automatically be thinking, you know what, I'll take some of that myself. Whereas here you are going, I'm desperate, trying everything, and then you found something that is working. Then if it's working in all of those ways, I love that you've used it for yourself, and you're actually, now you've actually changed your whole life. You've gone from, the job that you had to go, you know what, everyone needs to be aware of this and seeing the benefits. So to our listeners, I'm going to leave that to you. You definitely can reach out to Darlene to find out more information. Do some researching yourself for all things. I think we all need to be open, that there's always a broad range of, opportunities, values for us all, in this area. This is natural therapies, but also, just in things that you might try and work. And it's all right to try things like you did initially, Darlene, and go, you know what, I'll try 100 things and just see what works. And I've had plenty of people who go, you know what, everyone says this doesn't work, but for me it does. And I go, you know what, it does. Even if, who cares? Who cares if you get the results and it works for you? Then that's all you want, really. So I think it's been a fantastic conversation. Thank you so much for your sharing so much information. Oh my goodness, so many of our listeners, you might need to rewatch that and take some notes, because there was a lot of information and definitely acronyms and things like that you might not understand, but it's definitely a space that we want to engage in a little bit more. So thank you for being on the show today.
Oh, thank you, Annie. It's so nice to meet. Thank you for all that you do for all the women. It's such a lovely thing how you lift women across the world up, and I'm really grateful for that. As someone who did 20 years in the Navy, surrounded by men, and then jumped into technology and was the only woman at the table as a vice president. I love helping other women. And I do think that there's a special place here. This is perhaps what I love most about this. Women tend to be more open to trying. And it's not necessarily the money back guarantee or whatever, but they're like, sure, why not? I'll give that a try. And I love that, because they end up dragging they're experiencing the benefits, and then they're like, you got to try this, that's amazing. And so it's really been fun. I love it. This job is just so intrinsically rewarding, and because you're lifting everyone up, helping them feel better, to your point, to do their jobs so well. And what's hard for me now is I see someone like, on crutches that I don't know, or in a wheelchair, and I want to walk over and go, can I ice wave patch you and get you out of pain? I have a patch for that. Like, it's all I can do. Like, I have to hold my boundaries, Darlene, boundaries, hold it together. Because I'm like, I know.
Otherwise, they'll be staring at you in the supermarket going, hey, lady, I didn't actually ask you.
I know it's hard, but I do hold it together.
I love your passion. I love your attitude to health and wellness. And I want that for all of us, that we can be at our optimum health and wellness, so that we can live the life that we love. That's what we're all about doing, and that we can help and support each other along the way. So great conversation. All the best to you. I love what you're doing, and keep sharing with others about how to be healthier.
And you'll put the website for my IamReverseAging.com and a link, and so people can find me, and they can reach out on my website, and I can consult with them on in any of this. Like, I can invite them to a podcast with a doctor where they can ask doctors questions and get their own specific questions answered, and I can walk through it very slowly as well with anyone that might be interested. So the website allows you to do that. It's IamReverseAging.com.
Fantastic. All right, listeners, thank you for joining us today. I look forward to any of your comments via the chat, whether you're watching on YouTube or LinkedIn Live. You might be on one of our many streaming platforms. Definitely engage with us. So we love your questions. We will answer all questions, and we look forward to seeing you in next week's episode. See you then. Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of Women's Biz Podcast. I'm Annie Gibbins, founder and CEO of Women's Biz Global. And if you would like to fast track your future success, pop on over to womensbizglobal.com, where you can find out how our coaching, media and publishing opportunities are helping women just like you to become and be seen as the trusted authorities in their niche. Inquire today and start reining in the abundance you desire.